Maria,
good morning. Well, good afternoon to you.
Oh, thank you so much. We've finally been able to coincide our diaries, so it's really good to
Yes.
Oh, good. So I know that you know kind of what you're here for. So we're going to have a conversation about well-being. It's Global Wellbeing Week running currently from the 21st to the 30th of June. And I thought it would just be a lovely idea to speak to lots of different people that I know about that topic, and kind of, in the context of their lives, but also perhaps it will help people that are listening and watching to reflect on well-being in their lives, and maybe they'll be able to pick up some kind of recommendations to enhance their own well-being as well.
This is such a great project. Thank you for letting me participate.
Oh, my pleasure, Maria. So I tell you what, why don't we start by you sharing just a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, my name's Maria. I'm originally from Toronto in Canada, but in 2008, I moved to the Southwest United States. I'm a field biologist. I actually got my master's degree at the University of Leeds in the UK. So I worked on various projects, conservation projects, and now I just happen to be in the deserts of the Southwest United States, and I've been here since 2008. So I love my job. I also finished a yoga teacher training back in 2013, so I also teach yoga on the side. I met you, Laura, back in Zambia in Africa in 2010, I believe, so 11 years ago. And we've kind of kept in touch on social media over the years. So I'm happy to be participating in this project.
Thanks so much, Maria. So I know that you mentioned there that along with your job, and it's so wonderful when you hear people talk about their jobs and that they love them, because I think sometimes that can be quite rare. You talked about that you are trained as a yoga teacher as well, and so that leads us probably quite nicely into this word well-being, which is being used more and more and more over recent years. What does that word mean to you, Maria?
Well, I believe that we just need to have a balance in life, a work-life balance, relaxing and being involved, time away from people and time involved with people, just a complete balance in life. So really that means, well-being of body, mind, and soul. So by body, well-being of the body, I mean eating right, eating healthy foods that nourish us. So I once heard a quote that said, everything we eat either feeds disease or fights disease. So, I try my best to eat in such a way that fights disease. I've been a vegetarian since 1995, and just a few weeks ago, I celebrated a year of not drinking alcohol. So that, for me, enhances my well-being of my body. Well-being of my mind, yoga is an excellent practice because it's so calming, and it connects movement with breath. So by breathing better, we're enhancing our well-being by calming ourselves down and clearing all the thoughts in our mind that are often negative, because we often do tell ourselves stories that aren't true, and fill ourselves up with limiting beliefs that really don't serve us. So I find that yoga helps get rid of that which does not serve. Meditation as well helps with mind and well-being of the soul, connected spiritually, connected with our communities, doing activities which serve our highest good, not having a job we hate, being connected with our families. And it's just well-being involves all three of those aspects. So that's what well-being means to me.
And Maria, I'm really interested to find out from you, have you always felt that way? Have you always known that is what well-being means to you, or has this been a journey of discovery?
It definitely has been a journey. I would say the big turning point in my life was about 20 years ago. My really good friend who lives in upstate New York, in Rochester, New York, her name's Michelle. Her mother is a naturopathic doctor, and she gave this amazing weekend seminar that Michelle graciously invited me to. And that was the turning point in my life, because she talked about natural health and ways of being that don't necessarily involve pharmaceuticals and, you know, the quick fix popping pills sort of way of our dealing with our health that's been sold to us, you know, through the mainstream medical community. And I thought, wow, I incorporated a lot of those things that I had learned that weekend into my life, and my life just got so much better. I felt better. I wasn't eating as poorly. You know, often it's just so easy to pick up some fast food that's fried, and, you know, it's just easy to do that. But having heard her talk, I made some positive changes in my life that just still continue to this day. But that was sort of the turning point, and a big period of growth had happened ever since. So yeah, I'm grateful for that. Yeah, prior to that, you know, I partied a lot, I drank a lot, I, you know, didn't take care of myself as well. So, but I believe you can get away with that a lot easier in your 20s
Yeah.
than you can as you get older. Your body's less forgiving as you get older. So yeah.
Absolutely. And it's less forgiving, and it kind of, I don't know, there's something about the body I think it gets louder in terms of when we're not listening to it. There's more that happens, and you keep on ignoring it, but then more keeps on happening. So there's something about kind of tuning in and noticing, isn't there?
Definitely.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, how has the last 18 months, so during the whole of the pandemic, I'm just wondering, how has that played a part in impacting your well-being, be it positive or negative?
Well, I feel very fortunate because I'm a bit of an anomaly in the situation. Like I said, I'm a field biologist. So, and I work on a project-to-project basis. So last year I happened to get a work project out in Needles, California, for 8 months. That was from February until November. So, and I only had one colleague out in the field with me, and we both had our own separate work trailers that we lived in. So, you know, we were out in the field for work where we didn't even deal with anybody. We completely socially distanced out in nature, in the desert, and coming home to our own separate trailers. So I actually worked throughout the pandemic last year, but I do have a house in Las Vegas, and I had people who were leasing out some rooms, and I would come home maybe every other weekend just to check on them. And, you know, they had a little bit of a tougher time, you know, paying rent and stuff like that. So I was very empathetic to their situation because it wasn't easy to be kind of stuck at home. But yeah, so I did come home on my own every night to an empty trailer. So, you know, there was ways to cope with it. I used it as an opportunity to, you know, read a lot of books, take a lot of online courses, do a lot of Zoom meetings. Yeah, use that time to go inward.
Yeah.
So I really ultimately saw it as a gift. You know, I did miss the social contact with people, but, you know, we're very fortunate to have technology that brought us together, you know, virtually during that time. So yeah, I used it as an opportunity to grow, used it as an opportunity to go inward, and take advantage of technology that we have at our disposal nowadays. So
yeah, I think we in some respects the fact that we have that technology at our most people have access to some form of technology at their fingertips, so have been able to keep connected in some shape or form.
Yes.
I do wonder what might it have been like were we not as connected electronically.
Yes, and my family's in Toronto in Canada, and they're still on a lockdown there, so that's been tough because I missed Christmas with them. I missed 2 milestone birthdays, my mother's 80th birthday in March and my father's 80th birthday in May. I was really hoping to be there for at least one of those major milestone birthdays, but they have a rule that if you need to enter the country from a foreign country, you have to be on a 2-week quarantine.
Yeah.
And actually for Christmas, my brother and his wife have a house with a separate entrance in the basement that they normally rent out to people leasing. But unfortunately, that plan got scrapped because my young niece, who's 3 years old, wouldn't have been allowed in her daycare had I, potentially contaminated the house coming from a foreign country. So, yeah, that was difficult to cope with. Not having seen my family in person since 2019. But again, like you said, we have the technology, and I'm in touch with them virtually, quite often. So, but it's not the same as, hugging them in person and having my mom cook for me, and yeah, it's not the same, but it'll happen soon enough. So I'm trying to stay positive that when we do finally reunite, it'll be nice, extra special actually.
Yeah, absolutely. That does sound really tough. And I know, from what I know about you, Maria, I know that you are very philosophical. You will always see the bright side, as well as recognizing and acknowledging kind of when things maybe aren't great. Well, don't
get me wrong, there have been really rough moments. Like, for example, this past Sunday, here in North America, we celebrate Father's Day.
Okay.
And I got on a virtual call with my family, who were all together, my mom, my dad, my brother, his kids, his wife. And I really felt left out, I did cry after I got off the phone with them, because I thought, wow, they're all together and I'm not there. It's really sad. But, part of well-being, I believe, is to feel those feelings, fully feel them, If you're sad, cry it out. If you're angry, let it out, because that way it's much easier to let go of when you fully feel them. Because when you numb yourself or like cover up those feelings, they fester. They'll come out later in some of the worst possible ways, like maybe even manifest themselves as physical disease, or even mental illness. So, feel it, fully feel it, and then you can let it go easier.
And thanks. Yeah, it's really great that you kind of added that there, because that was actually going to be one of my next questions to you, Maria. Kind of when you have noticed feeling those feelings, and whatever's going on in your mind, what are the approaches that you use? What are the strategies that you use? So one of those you're talking about there is, which I think a lot of people struggle with, really allowing the emotion, allowing, and I was talking about this in another conversation, kind of facing into what we're feeling. And a lot of the time I think that people may fear what's going to come up, and so we bury it rather than kind of fully kind of embrace it. And for me, I've been practicing that a lot more over the last kind of 18 months. And it's definitely a practice, isn't it? It's not something we can suddenly do. It's something, that we have to.
Yes. Especially in the past, we were taught to shame these feelings of like, oh no, like I'm sad, oh, I must be weak then, or I'm angry, something's wrong with me because I'm not positive all the time. That is so not true. And I'm really happy that nowadays there's less shame in feeling those feelings, or, you know, we're human. Of course we're going to have those feelings. There's no shame at all in these feelings. If you're sad, you're sad. If you're angry, you're angry. That's it, you know, embrace it. We're human. It's part of the human experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there anything else that has helped you, you know, through those really difficult times?
Yes. So I do a morning practice when I wake up in the morning. That's sort of from yoga, actually. Pranayama and meditation. So pranayama is breath work. Yeah. If you notice that when you're angry or upset, you tend to have a lot shallower breaths, like, but if you deepen your breaths, take long, deep, full chest, full belly breaths, and you slow down your rate of respiration, you automatically feel calmer. And that is an excellent exercise that is very helpful in calming down, especially when you're really upset. So breath work, meditation instantly, I find, calms me down, because as an Indian friend of mine said to me, we celebrated the International Day of Yoga on Monday, the 21st. And he said, you don't do meditation, because meditation is just doing nothing. You just be, you know, be who you are, your real true self. So that is a really good way of looking at it. And yeah, it's so essential to my daily practice of well-being. So yeah, breathwork and meditation really help. They're excellent tools.
And breath is something that I've done bits of work on before, certainly with a bit of yoga and with the meditation, and it's something that I have been practicing a lot more, because what I've really recognized is that when I am stressed, and concentrating actually, but especially when I'm stressed, I really hold my breath, and that's not good.
Yes. And that's what makes yoga so special, because it's the movement coordinated with your breath. And because if you don't pay attention to your breath, you're just stretching, you know what I mean? But with yoga, you really pay attention to your breath, and it's so important, because it is the force of life, you know? Our breath is our life, and it's so powerful. When you can pay attention to your breath and how powerful it is in calming us down. It's such an amazing tool.
And Maria, for you shared what you practice on a daily basis and what's been helpful for you, certainly over the last 18 months, and you find helpful. What do you find gets in the way of those, if anything?
Again, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of limiting beliefs. Often when you get upset or angry, you tend to fall into the trap of those negative beliefs of, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, oh, I don't deserve this, you know, all this nonsense. And that does get in the way. Or even like, oh, I don't have time for this. But I find that all of that is just the nonsense stories we tell ourselves, and that really gets in the way. So if you can talk yourself out of that, and just do your practice, it's all right. But yes, they can get in the way. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there will be many people that are watching and listening to this that really resonates with, the voice in our head, that critic, the doubter, the shamer, that we all have, but we can have that as a different volume, can't we? Dependent on the situation, and dependent on the individual. Yeah. What I'd like to do is just, if you wouldn't mind, can we have a little chat about what started out, I think, as an experiment.
Okay.
Well, from my perspective, you shared a website with me, the alcohol experiment, and I completed that for a month as well.
Yes.
But could you just share a little bit about what made you decide that you wanted to go alcohol free, and just share, because I think that's going to be really interesting for people as well.
Okay. Well, a friend of mine, Tina, who's actually from the UK as well, I had shared with her that I was interested in doing something about drinking, because I also find that you tend to attract into your life the state of mind that you're in. So, if you're in a state of negativity, you'll often attract negative people. If you're in a state of anger, you'll often attract angry people. But for some reason, last year, a lot of alcoholics were entering into my life, including a severe alcoholic coworker. And I was just like, what's going on here? I'm doing all this meditation and yoga, and yet these alcoholics are drawn to me. What's going on here? Yeah. And just as that was happening, and I was wondering what's going on, my friend said, "Oh, have you heard of this woman named Annie Grace? She does something called the 30-day alcohol experiment." And I was like, "What's that?" So I went on her website, and she just said, "Try going alcohol free for 30 days and see what that does to your life. It's just an experiment. If it does nothing for you, you can go back to your regular drinking habits." And I thought, you know what? I have nothing to lose. Let's try this, Well, here I am, haven't had a drink for over a year now. So I really enjoyed how it had improved my life. And I was noticing how much my energy levels declined even after one drink. I was feeling less alert, less present, and I thought, you know what, I don't really need this. So everybody's different. Some people benefit from reducing their drinking intake. Some people don't benefit at all. Everyone's different, but for me, I benefited by stopping completely. And interestingly enough, these alcoholics that came into my life just magically slipped away, So yeah, it was interesting how I went to this point of not drinking, and then suddenly I'm not really attracting drinkers into my life anymore. So yeah. It's funny how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And I, when I saw your post on Facebook about you having started off, having completed that alcohol experiment, then I too went onto the website, and then I think that was, last year that I did that. And what I really loved about the way Annie Grace kind of does it is that every day there's different email, there's different videos.
Yes.
And she covers she covers so many different perspectives, doesn't
yes.
she, of that. So society.
It was very thorough, wasn't it? It was amazing. I really thought she did a wonderful job with that.
Definitely, and was so open and honest and vulnerable about her own experiences, with alcohol.
Yes.
And also some of the stuff around what happens with the brain and the psychology and the chemicals and
yes.
all of that stuff. And the more you're aware of it, the more I would notice it when I was, if I did have a glass of wine, what was happening, and isn't that interesting?
Yes.
And it definitely
yes.
made me, although I've not given up alcohol,
fair enough,
it's made me a lot more conscious about when we do it automatically, that habit of reaching for it, and also
yes.
Do I really want this?
Yeah. Sorry.
No, go on.
I was just going to say that everywhere we go, I've noticed, especially in this last year, having not, drank any alcohol, that it's really pushed upon us. You go into a pub just to meet a friend, and you're automatically what would you like to drink, and do you have any alcohol-free options? And it's getting better now. I'm noticing that you can get kombucha on tap, or non-alcoholic beverages. There's a lot more options, non-alcoholic beers, but often there are no options, and you're just stuck with, some unhealthy sugary drink, or, water, really. So that can be a bit disappointing. But apart from that, like, I really noticed how pushed upon us it is in society as a whole. So
yeah. And just the last question on this before we move on to the last question, Maria.
Sure.
What did you notice about those people that you were with during the initial stages of you giving up alcohol? Because this always fascinates me.
Yes.
And again, there's a bit of peer pressure in there sometimes. And
sure.
So yeah, did you notice anything?
Interestingly enough, so I found that in my family, I have a grandfather, my maternal grandfather, who actually died of cirrhosis of the liver. Although he died when I was a child, and now that I look back on his situation, I have a lot more empathy for him, because he was a survivor. He fought in World War II. And he was captured by the Italian fascist army and held as a prisoner of war for 4 years. So my grandmother was pregnant with my mom when he went off to fight in the war. And so because he had disappeared, they just assumed that he had died.
Right.
But then, when she was 4, he came back to the village she grew up in, and she said she remembers some early childhood memories are sort of burned in her brain, but she remembers the day he came back, like, oh, you have a father, and back then they had absolutely no services for mental health, and especially as a man, like, suck it up, raise your family, be a man, be brave, so he had absolutely no way of dealing with the, who knows, untold trauma that he experienced as a prisoner of war. So poor man took to self-medicating through alcohol, and unfortunately it ultimately killed him. So I looked at that situation. I thought, well, there it is in my family. And then I had an uncle, my aunt's husband, who was actually quite an abusive alcoholic. And he did a lot of damage to my cousins and my aunt, and so he passed away as well because of alcoholism. And then, like I said, I had a colleague who, it was really bad. Like, he was vomiting every day at work, and it was just like, I just had enough. Alcohol at that point just gave me such a sick feeling that I couldn't deal with it anymore. And so I felt like, you know what, in order to not attract this energy into my life, whether it's through family or through the people that I'm in contact with on a daily basis, then I have to quit myself, so but once I decided, it was actually quite easy, so I felt like this was just a stage in my life that I was meant to go through. So yeah,
that's really inspiring, Maria, hearing that story and kind of the impact of alcoholism on your life and the decision that you've made. And it kind of further reinforces my view that we will always have more control than we first believed.
Yes.
We just have to tune in and to make decisions and kind of work out what's the right thing for us.
Definitely.
So I can see you've arrived in the desert, you're at work. Can you just before we go, can you just share with me kind of anyone wants to enhance their well-being further? What would you say?
You mentioned earlier about listening to your body. Our intuition is very powerful, and often it's clouded by the messages we receive through our conditioning, through the media, through our culture. So in order to quiet down that conditioning and those messages, take some time out, meditate, just let it all quiet down for a little bit, and then listen to your body. If your body says, no, I don't want to eat that fried food, then don't. If your body says, I don't want to take that third drink, then don't. We have to quiet down and listen to our bodies, and our intuition tells us. So less being told what to do and more listening to our bodies and our intuition.
Thanks so much for taking the time.
You're so welcome. What a joy it was to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. You have a great day, and I hope to catch up soon.
Thank you so much, Laura. Good luck on the rest of this project.
Thank you. Lots of love.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.